After playing The Sims 3 since I was 9 years old, I just recently introduced ReShade into my own game. And wow, what a visual difference ReShade makes to this 14-year-old game. This video is going to show you step by step how I added ReShade to my Sims 3 game so yours too can look beautiful. Before we begin, I just wanted to note that I make my tutorials accessible and understandable, over-explaining everything, no matter your tech savviness. If I'm talking slow or over-explaining, please be understanding that there are others that may not understand or learn as fast. What exactly is ReShade? According to Google, ReShade is a generic post-processing injector for games and video software developed by Corsair. What does that even mean? I think I can show you better than I can tell you. Yeah, it basically makes the game look downright gorgeous by enhancing the shadows, adding depth of field, which is that nice blurry background, and amplifying the vibrancy and saturation. How do we install ReShade? Most tutorials of ReShade you see will instruct you to install ReShade using the official release on the reshade.me site. Using this official download with my guide will work fine. However, I have to tell you that newer versions of ReShade have an automatic feature that will toggle off certain effects like the nice blurry background and depth of field if ReShade detects any internet connectivity with your game. As you may or may not know, The Sims 3 version 1.69, which was the final update released for The Sims 3, actually does have internet connectivity. This means that after a while or even immediately, the blurry background effect, depth of field in ReShade will stop working. If you're wondering why would ReShade implement something like this, to spare you an over-explanation, it's to save users from getting banned on certain online games that have an anti-cheat system. Luckily, getting banned is not a risk for us. The Sims 3 is not an online game despite having internet connectivity, so we can get around this by using a modded installation of ReShade provided by a member of the community that has tinkered around to disable this automatic feature. Don't worry, it installs all the same way, and I promise you it's safe. I would not be using it myself if it weren't. In the description box below, I have left a link to this GitHub page right here. We're going to download this second to the top file, ReShade 4.9.1 modded.exe. 4.9.1 is an older version of ReShade, however, it has all the features that the newer ones do, but the interfaces are a little bit older looking. You can try out 5.2.2 modded if you want to use a newer version of ReShade. However, I found that it actually broke my Sims 3 game, and something with a new NVIDIA card graphics update was causing crashing. So I recommend everyone to use 4.9.1. Once you click download and run the installer, Windows is going to shoot you a message that says something like this: Windows protected your PC. As aforementioned, this is a modded version of ReShade that changes the depth buffer function so that the nice blurry background won't turn off when ReShade detects internet connectivity. So that is why Windows is shooting you this message. All you have to do is hit more info right here. And as you can see, it says unknown publisher. As I said in the beginning of this video, ReShade is actually by a developer named Corsair, but because this is modded, it's saying unknown publisher, which is why Windows is prompting you with this warning. But anyway, we're gonna hit run anyway. Once again, this is going to give you a warning. Do not install this on a multiplayer game. There is a reason why this is only meant for single player games. Use regular ReShade on any multiplayer game. At this point in the video, we should all have ReShade set up v4.9.1 in the screen like this. We're just gonna go ahead and click on this button, click here to select a game and manage its ReShade installation. Now ReShade is going to bring up every single application that it detects on your computer. You can either scroll through this list, but I have found that for whatever reason, this like installation, it doesn't update. I have to like drag the window around, so it's kind of buggy. What I'd recommend doing is coming down here to the browse button and clicking on it, which should then pop you open to your file explorer. Now I know exactly where my Sims 3 is located on my hard drive. If you don't, you can go to your desktop icons and go to your Sims 3 icon and right click on it, hit open file location, and this should pop you open into the window where you need to be. If you ended up deleting your Sims 3 icon, what you can do is type in the Sims 3 and this will bring up the Sims 3 app. You can hit open file location again. Mine, for whatever reason, is just referring me back to this, but you get the point. You can use this to pop open where we need to be. A cool thing about Windows, if you didn't know, is I can actually grab this address bar right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and just copy it, go back to ReShade, hit browse, and then I can actually paste this in there so it'll pop me open to this window. Now we should all be in here, and your files, your .exe files, the ones with these little symbols, may not say .exe on them. What I'd recommend doing in that case is just popping open into your file explorer and coming up here to view on the top, going to show, and making sure you have file name extensions ticked on. I think this is in a similar spot on Windows 10. I'm using Windows 11. At any rate, you should now see all of the .exe files and all of the file name extensions. Now this is where everyone's installation is going to differ a little bit. If you are playing on Steam, you actually have a different version of The Sims 3 than someone who plays on EA App/Origin. I play on EA App, so my version of The Sims 3, the final version I played The Sims 3 on, is version 1.69. If you play on Steam, you will probably have, if you go in your Sims 3 launcher, your version will say 1.67. This is important because in order to install ReShade, we need to choose different .exes to install it on, depending on which version of The Sims 3 you have. So if you have version 1.69 for The Sims 3, you're going to install ReShade on ts3.exe. However, if you are running The Sims 3 on 1.67, you are going to choose ts3w.exe to install ReShade on. Now again, I use 1.69, so I'm going to go for ts3. I'm going to double click it, and then it's going to ask what rendering API does The Sims 3 use. I'm also going to just close my launcher, and The Sims 3 uses Direct3D 9, so I'm going to click on that. And now it will say ReShade setup was successful. At this point on the top of my screen, you can say ReShade 4.9.1 unofficial has successfully installed. If you are not seeing this bar at the top, make sure you follow the steps that I provided here and you're installing it properly on whatever .exe you need to. But you can see that it says press the home button to start the tutorial. The home button is a key above your arrow keys on your keyboard. I'm going to go ahead and click that. If you are using a keyboard that does not have a home key, what we can actually do is click our Windows key on our keyboard and type in on screen keyboard, and this will allow you to manually grab the home screen and it will allow you to open it just like that. At any rate, when we get into ReShade, it's gonna ask us if we want to do this tutorial. I'm gonna skip it because I'm gonna be showing you guys the tutorial. Everything in here should be empty at this point. That is because we need to install shaders and textures for ReShade to utilize. I think it's because we're using an antiquated version of ReShade here. These aren't natively in the installer, so I am going to host these on Google Drive, where y'all can just download this whole folder, reshade-shaders, and I will show you exactly where this needs to go. If you scroll through these, it's just a bunch of like PNGs and other sort of photos in here. What these actually are, it's pretty cool. These are the effects that the ReShade creators, the preset creators, use, and they build on these right here to create those beautiful visual filters you can put over your game. So we need these so that our game has access. I'm going to go ahead, and once you have the reshade-shaders folder downloaded, we are just going to go ahead and right click on it, copy it, and we're going to put it in our Sims 3 install directory. Again, we can use that trick. your logo on your desktop, open file location, and this will pop us right open to where we need to be. And I'm going to click on the blank space off to the right here, and I'm just going to paste that reshade-shaders into my folder here. Okay, at this point you can still see that I don't have anything in this space. It's all still empty. There's nothing I can click here, no shaders that I can enable. If we go back to that same folder, reshade-shaders, in that same file location directory, when we installed ReShade, we got this nice little file called reshade.ini. What we can do is we can left click on this and edit in Notepad. I might have to be out of my game in order for it to save, but we'll see. Inside of this folder, we're gonna have a little value under general here that says EffectSearchPaths, and another setting that says Texture Search Paths. These two values right here are where ReShade is going to search for that folder that we just dragged and dropped. So we need to tell ReShade, hey, I put the folder down, this is where you need to check. To do that, we are going to just copy and paste. I'm going to put this in the description box, so don't worry. You're just going to copy and paste this into this text file. So I'm going to grab the whole EffectSearchPaths. I'm going to copy it, go into my reshade.ini. I'm also going to close up my Sims 3 game just in case it can't save. It probably won't be able to. So I'm going to grab the EffectSearchPaths, just copy that whole thing and paste it exactly where it is in this reshade.ini file. I'm going to just paste it in there. So this will search for all of these folders that are inside reshade-shaders. Now we need to do the same thing if we go under texture search paths. Gonna copy that whole line and just paste it on in this file, and then we're gonna save it up and we can close this now. All right, in my game now, if I click on the home button on my keyboard, lo and behold, I have a ton of effects in here. It does say that some of them failed to compile. Don't worry, that doesn't mean anything for us, though you can go inside of that reshade-shaders folder and just delete whatever one failed to compile, but that's too much work for me. So I'm gonna go ahead and proceed with ReShade here. Now, to kind of give you a little tutorial of how ReShade works, if I go ahead and let's say I'm just gonna pick a effect at random here. Let's say I wanna do the comic effect. You can see when I toggle that on and off by using this little check mark right here, it is actually changing my entire graphics of my game. Like you can see the text is getting warped, and it's also popping open this little option panel down here, which allows me to have more access to how this effect is working in my game. You can see this looks like a deep fried meme if y'all have ever seen those, but you can see as I change this here, it is changing. You can play around with these, and honestly, this is how ReShade creators make their effects. It's a lot of just messing around and seeing what looks nice in here. So if you are interested in making ReShade effects yourself, you totally can. You just have to, go through here and check which ones you want and all that kind of stuff. Also, a little Easter egg with ReShade, they have a little Pong game in here. Isn't that so random? It's just like one of the effects. All of these effects do something, and of course you can sit here all day and play with them if you want. I'm gonna come down here to my options menu here on my homepage. These are my settings for my game. Now, one thing that we all need to have as the same setting here is edge smoothing. Edge smoothing needs to be off. The rest of the stuff in here doesn't really matter. I have everything on high, minus high detail lots, and I'm gonna go over here first and foremost to my settings. I'm going to rebind the key that I open up ReShade with. So as you may or may not know, to turn the walls up and down in The Sims 3 and all Sims games for that matter, it is actually the home button. So I use that quite frequently and I don't want that to conflict. So a setting that I found is really good that I'm not touching or I'm not knocking my hands into. Shift and F12 I find to be really good to just open and close ReShade really quickly. So if I go and hit Shift F12 now, it will open and close that ReShade menu. Next up, the effect toggle key I put on Shift F10. This turns on and off your ReShade effects. The next setting that I have in here is previous preset key. I like to turn this to Shift and F8. This lets you swap between ReShade presets. We don't have any in here right now, but we'll get some in a second. And last but not least, next, the last thing I do is the screenshot key. I like to leave this on print screen. You may want to change this, but what you will definitely want to do is change where your screenshots are being spit out. Mine is actually not letting me choose anything. Mine is blank. So we're going to use that tip that I did before, where we can copy the address bar of wherever we want to spit out our photos. I have a folder in my pictures, another folder in ReShade, and then The Sims 3. So I'm just going to go ahead and right click on this, copy it, and going back into The Sims 3, I'm going to click on this blinking bar and just Control V to paste it, and then hit select, and this will direct ReShade to whenever I print screen a photo to put it in this location. So closing up settings here, we're actually going to go over to the home tab on top. In the home tab here, we're going to come down to edit global preprocessor definitions. We're going to click on this, and this is going to give some things that I don't understand what they mean, but what I do know is that ReShade depth input is reversed by default set to 1. We're going to want to turn this to 0. Make sure you set that to 0, and it's going to recompile your ReShade after you change that. So just let it do its magic, let it put it together for a moment. So now that we have ReShade installed, let's go ahead and actually get some presets on our computer so we can use them in our game. One of my favorite places to look for presets is actually by a creator named erasabledinosaur.tumblr.com. This may look different depending on how far out into the future you're watching this video, but as of uploading, there is a nice little guide here. So I'm going to go to Sims 3 ReShade presets. There's a couple to choose from here depending on what you like. So there's some nice photos. They always have amazing photos, and I really like how you can see with no ReShade, and then with ReShade, a nice blurry background, the nice saturation adjustment. You may also know this creator by their preset called Daydream, which is just so beautiful, adds some saturation, blurry background, and this is actually the one I use in my game. I'm gonna go ahead and show you how I install this. So we're gonna come down here. We can download Daydream here. Windows is giving me a blocked because it's dangerous. Don't worry, it's not dangerous. I'm gonna go ahead and cut this file that we just installed. I'm going to once again navigate to wherever I installed The Sims 3. So I'm going to use that trick I used before, where I go to my desktop icon, go to open file location, and then I'm going to go ahead and just paste this Daydream, and you can actually have your game open when you do this. You don't have to close it down. Something to note here is that this preset, luckily, Erasable Dinosaur included hotkeys, and I'm going to show you what those do here in just a second. Back in our Sims 3 game, we're going to open ReShade. So that is that Shift and F12 key that we set up before, or if you didn't change it, it'll still be the home key. We're going to navigate to the home tab and click this drop down menu. I'm going to scroll down to the Daydream tutorial preset. I actually went ahead and tweaked this preset to my liking, but this is what it'll look like in your game. It's very bright, it's very vibrant. I'm loaded into my Sims 3 game here, and this is kind of what we're working with right now. It's looking a little bright and like overexposed. It's pretty, but I'm going to actually go ahead and further tweak it, just to show you guys what you can truly do with ReShade. The first thing I am going to do is drag this window so I can see the UI, because my main concern right now is how overexposed the UI is looking, especially with my clean UI. And that'll lead to this bloom option here. You can see immediately when I remove the bloom, everything comes into focus a little bit better. For my personal preference, I like to keep this off, but as you can see, luckily Erasable Dinosaur did include this on a hotkey for precisely this reason right here, so I can turn it off with the F7 key on my keyboard. In addition, because we have to turn off edge smoothing when we use ReShade, I'm going to go ahead and add some artificial edge smoothing in with ReShade, which is this MSAA effect right here. You can toggle it off and on, and you can see MSAA really does add some edge smoothing. Last but not least, one thing I love about ReShade is MXAO. I'm gonna scroll through this list here and find the effect. They're luckily in alphabetical order, and it's MXAO qUINT underscore MXAO.FX. As you can tell, immediately when I turn this on, everything gains a lot more shadow to show what the world looks like. I'll zoom out a little bit and just toggle that on and off here. So here's without and here's with, just adds a lot more shadow, and I feel like it adds a lot more depth to the environment as well, and I really like it. If your edges are still looking a little bit jagged, which I feel like mine are, you can also go ahead and actually add FXAA, which will help with the edge smoothing, and you can just mess with that. I would just drag these until like you see some change happen on your screen. Last but not least, and probably the most important, the blurry background. In my preset, the blurry background, which is ADOF, is actually bound to a hotkey. If there is no hotkey next to this, you're gonna have to manually turn this on and off by checking it. But as you can see, when I do that, it adds some really nice blurry background. You don't want to play with this. Let me show you what this looks like when you play with this. It's really hard to see what's going on. You mostly want to use this for screenshots. If I put up the walls here, and I'm going to remove my UI by hitting F10, and then I toggle on that depth of field, you can see it is blurring the background quite nicely. It does kind of get confused a little bit with mirrors, but if you hold left click, you can actually use reshade like you would use a camera by focusing it. So that's what those lines are, and wherever you see those purple lines, the center of it, that is where it is going to focus the camera. I should also add, make sure you don't hold that left click while you are taking a screenshot, because those lines will show on your screenshot. It's really nice, just makes for some beautiful pictures. And obviously I would go ahead and hit print screen, and that would send a picture to that directory we talked about earlier. What a phenomenal photo, just beautiful, beautiful face. So you may be wondering, what does the game look like without? Well, here's what the game would look like without ReShade, just regular Sims 3. And then here is with ReShade. It's just some minor adjustments that really brighten up the environment, make it look a lot better. Is it a necessity? No. Is it for everybody? No. Does it really add that much difference? Probably not, no, but it's pretty easy to install and just takes a couple minutes to set up. One of the questions that is often asked with this program is, will it add lag to your Sims 3 game? Maybe. Yes, no, probably. Honestly, it's going to differ based on your PC specs. I'll put mine on screen right now. Also, if you have my Sims 3 Ultimate Fixes guide applied. However, the outcome of this question is going to depend on your computer hardware. I feel like that's what it always boils down to. If you ever wanted to uninstall ReShade for whatever reason, all you would have to do is run that ReShade setup modded exe once again that we did in the beginning of this video. Hit more info, run anyway, hit OK, navigate to ts3.exe where we installed it. We can hit next, direct X9, and then you would go here to uninstall. So basically just do what we did to install the program, and then when you're faced with this screen, just click uninstall and you can get rid of it that way. I hope my Sims 3 ReShade guide could help some of you out. In a card at the end, I will also put my Sims 3 visual guide, so all of my default eye replacements, hair replacements, clothes replacements, skin replacements, anything visual that you saw in this video minus ReShade, I will leave a link to at the end in a card. Anyways guys, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.